Bishop for his 5 minutes of testimony or questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Ballard, I also saw the movie Sound of Freedom. And I don't know if others do this. Sometimes when I see a movie based on supposedly real life, I go out and do a little research and see how close to real life it is. And the most significant finding that I had from going to look at that, sir, is you are, from everything I've seen, a genuine and remarkable hero. There's one hero that surpasses you, and that is your wife, sir. How many children do you have, including the 2 Haitian children you just mentioned that you've adopted?
There's 9 in total.
And when you did some fairly extraordinary things, as that movie depicts, and Jim Caviezel, I think, acts it marvelously, they could have put you in it because, they usually get the leading man because he's good looking. You're not too shabby yourself. But, and I say it as an old bald guy, what was depicted in that story really happens, and you really did that, and your family, your wife was committed to it to a level that is remarkable. Would you repeat the statistic about what the experience is of a child who's trafficked, how long that can happen, and how many, just real quickly, because I want to use it as the basis to ask a question to Mr. Gallant.
Well, a child, the ones that we have seen, many that we have seen, they're sold over and over again, up 10 times, up to 20 times within a 24-hour period when they're with a criminal network that's organized that way. And there's plenty of those in the United States.
For how long?
Oh, 10 plus years.
Mr. Gallant, there are all sorts of human miseries in life. You've described, I think, in your lawsuit and the advocacy about it, depicts one that is certainly true, the separation of children from their parents. In most cases, it has turned out to be on a temporary basis, but nonetheless, one that you said is very traumatizing, no doubt. Which is worse, that sort of temporary separation or being exploited in sex trafficking up to 20 times a day for as long as the child, a decade, which is worse in your view.
Yeah, I mean, Congressman, I am not here remotely to dismiss horror.
Can you just say whether you wouldn't disagree with me that the one Mr. Ballard describes is a much more devastating misery.
A young child sex trafficked is as bad as it can be.
So here's the thing, and I'm sure you would be thinking, because you're very skillful, that as you sit there, that I'm depicting a false choice. That is to say, that the fact that you'd see that experience would not excuse the United States from abusing rights and separating children, and I actually totally agree with you. But you do have to think about the design of your policies, of all of our policies, and what you do, and what results that entails. You've said that the 85,000 children that HHS has lost track of, you don't really think they're missing. And I understand your point there too. They just not soon, in a lot of cases, they'd like not to have official contacts. Let's say 6% of them, though, are in a different circumstance, sir. That would be 5,500 people, 5,500 children who've gone off the grid for some other reason. And I suspect in many of those cases, it's the reason that Mr. Ballard's presence here testifies to. And I think, Mr. Ballard, I'd like to give the last little while. I don't know that anyone in this room could contest or doubt your commitment to children. And yet you don't seem to be allied with Mr. Gallant about which is the biggest problem. Can you speak to that in the last minute and 16 seconds I have available?
Yeah, I find it curious the amount of attention on a policy that I actually agree with the witness. That shouldn't be repeated again. But we have something before us right now. 85,000 children are missing because if you understand the vetting process that goes into, for example, an adoption, or that goes into if you find a missing child in New York City or whatever city, what the vetting process that would go into anyone coming to claim that child. If that kid was released to anyone without that vetting process, you would call that child missing, especially when you called the number and they're not picking it up. Yeah, and we can suspect why they're not picking it up. So I think that we have before us a problem right now. This should be the focus of the Congress's actions.
Well said. And I'm going to take back my last 20 seconds because I want to make one other point that I think sometimes eludes us. The question is not that inside HHS suddenly bureaucrats have been uncommitted to vetting children's sponsors. The problem is we've gone from about 1,400 children to, I can't do the number, to 83,000 a year that have gone missing. These are people who have been, because the system is overwhelmed with the numbers of unaccompanied children that have been incentivized to come. Whether you believe that it is, honorable and humane or not, whether it is triggered by problems in other parts of the world or not, we have designed policy, others have designed policy for the United States that they believe is best, and so children are being sent here unaccompanied in massive numbers, and you make them massive enough, you cannot build a system sufficient to vet them. That is the end result, Mr. Gallant, of the policy you guys have pursued. I have great respect for the ACLU, actually, and I'd get into that if I weren't out of time. But I suspect that we've got to look at our overall picture and where the results have come. Thanks.